Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on symbol, mood, and tone. Let's start with a symbol. So our first question is, what is a symbol? In poetry, symbols are known for their usage of symbolism. Symbols can be used to represent ideas. Symbols also change depending on the tone or the theme of the poem. Symbols can be used in place of things like people, places, words, actions, objects, thoughts, or feelings. And here's a little bit more information on a symbol. So first of all, we need to know that a symbol is another literary device. It can represent abstract ideas, and it can be a sign of something else. And depending on the reader, a symbol has a different level of interpretation by everybody. So what it means for you, it might not mean the same for somebody else. And here's a couple more important things to remember. It aligns with the tone and the theme of the poem. Symbols tend to have several layers of meaning to them, and they shouldn't be taken lightly by the reader. You could be wondering, why do poets use symbolism? Well, it's pretty simple. Poets use symbolism because it allows them the ability to highlight a deeper meaning in their writing and enhance the poem and its message. But be aware, some symbols are harder to recognize while others are more traditional. Here are some examples of symbols. Our first one is the couples expecting their rainbow baby. In this case, rainbow would be a symbol of hope. She had the spirit of a lion. For this example, lion would be the symbol of strength or courage. He bleeds red, white, and blue. In this case, red, white, and blue are symbols of American patriotism. She was so red, I was scared for her boss. In this sentence, red would be a symbol of anger. Now you may be wondering, what is mood? Well, mood in poetry is based on word choice, subject matter, and tone. It helps to create a feeling that sets the scene for the rest of the poem. And you may be wondering, how do we find the mood in a poem? Well, we start off by analyzing the setting, the tone, word choice, and the theme. There's a few things we want to keep in mind when we're trying to figure out the mood of a poem. 1, the interaction of these elements causes the mood. So the setting, the tone, and the word choice all create the feeling that we feel when we read the poem. And if something can be felt, a poem can be written to match the mood of that written work. So say we were sad, we could write a poem to match how we were feeling. Or if we were happy, we could do the same thing. So some examples of words that represent mood are romantic, optimistic, mournful, serious, angry, cheerful, or sad. Some other things could be aggressive or optimistic. So the poem here on the left, written by Alicia N. Green, speaks to being in love with somebody, not knowing who you were before and not knowing who you'd be without that person. So this poem represents love and romance because it speaks to how someone feels as though they cannot be without the other person. It also mentions how finding someone and becoming close with them and falling in love with them feels simply like coming home. This poem provides a heartwarming and romantic example of poetry. Our final element of poetry in this presentation is tone. So, what is tone? Tone indicates the mood that will be felt by the reader. Tone usually is used to indicate how the poet feels toward the subject of the poem. However, again, it's always up to interpretation by the reader. And now, how is tone formed? And here are some important things to keep in mind. It's formed by vocabulary, regularity or irregularity in flow, rhyming or figurative language. Attitude can be felt in the poem because of the tone, and the tone can change as the poem goes on. Sometimes tone can be obvious, but it also can require some more digging. Where else can we find tone? Well, we can find tone in images and their representation in the poem, implications found in the poem, or the music and rhythm found in the poem. Here are some examples of tone in poetry. So an author's tone is described by adjectives. For example, you might say the author of the novel sounds and list all of these different things. Angry, excited, nervous, sorrowful, all of those. And there's also another example. And all the trees died. I don't know why they died, they just died. Something went wrong with the soil, or possibly maybe the stuff we got from the nursery wasn't the best. All these kids looking at these little round sticks, it was depressing. This one is obviously representing death and the mournful and loss of a tree. Here are the 4 sites I used for my presentation, and thank you all for watching. I hope you got to learn something about symbol, mood, and tone.